how in any way are you a threat by virtue of the opinions you've expressed 2 years ago about vaccines? Here's another civil rights activist. Quote, Australian Lawyers Alliance spokesman Greg Barnes, a barrister experienced in migration cases, so he's an immigration lawyer, said the government would be justified in blocking Djokovic if he was coming to Australia to spur anti-vaccination views. Quote, but he's coming here to play tennis. And his views on vaccination are somewhat muddled, he said. So he's saying, look, if Djokovic were coming to Australia to rile up anti-vaccine sentiment, to hold rallies against vaccines, to encourage people not to be vaccinated, that would be one thing. Maybe the government can say, well, we don't want foreigners coming onto our soil to engage in activism that we think is harmful. But that's not what he's there for. Everyone knows that he's not coming to do that. He's coming to play in a tennis tournament that he's played in for the last 15 years without ever once harming anybody. The lawyer goes on, Mr. Barnes said the case could hypothetically set a precedent for a musician to be blocked if they were well known for opposing the U.S.-Australia alliance on the basis the person might diminish public support for a pillar of Australian foreign policy national security. Think about that. Australia recently entered into a somewhat controversial national security alliance, military alliance with the United States. It caused a lot of conflict with France and Germany and other NATO allies for a lot of complicated reasons. But it's part of the United States' effort to create a check against the threat that they see from China. It's controversial in the world. It's controversial in Australia. And what if somebody who's a musician had a concert in Australia and they said, I regard this U.S.-Australian alliance as ill-advised? This would mean that the government could say somebody who expresses their opinion that this alliance, this military alliance, is ill-advised, is now a danger to be on Australian soil because it might incite a sentiment among the people that we don't like, an opinion that we disagree with. So we're going to ban them from coming in, or if they get in, we're going to deport them and prevent them from earning their livelihood. Who would want this precedent where you can now be deported, not if you're a criminal, not if you're doing things that pose a threat to other people, but if you're expressing political opinions that the current government happens to regard as dangerous? The article goes on. The government initially blocked Djokovic's visa on the basis he did not have a valid medical exemption. But its second visa cancellation was underpinned by the new rationale that he was a risk to public health and good order based on his vaccine skepticism. There's the picture of Djokovic being taken into detention when the government first revoked his visa. Now, as I said, I believe that this case creates a lot of serious precedent, well beyond the question of whether Djokovic gets to try and win his 21st Grand Slam title. I do think it's very dangerous, the specific precedent I just reviewed, as expressed by Australian immigration lawyers and civil liberties activists and civil rights activists, that we're now saying to the government, if people in a pandemic just are skeptical of what you're telling them to do, that means that you get to now treat them as lepers, as threats to the public order by virtue of their opinion, and that their livelihood will be denied.